Imagine walking home on a quiet moonlit street. The air is still, the silence broken only by the distant hum of the city and the crunch of leaves under your feet. But your mind isn't quiet. It races with stories you've heard, stories whispered at sleepovers, shared in hushed tones around campfires, or discovered in the shadowed corners of the internet. You glance over your shoulder, half expecting to catch a glimpse of the vanishing hitchhiker, or to hear the chilling tap-tap-tap of a phantom hand against your window. These are urban legends, modern folklore that thrives in the shadows of our everyday lives, passed from person to person, generation to generation, like a contagious shiver. They are more than just scary stories. They are cultural artifacts, narratives that reflect our deepest hopes, our most primal fears, and our unspoken values. Unlike traditional folklore tied to distant times or remote enchanted forests, urban legends are set in the here and now. They happen on the very highways we drive, in the shopping mall parking lots we visit, and in the quiet suburban neighborhoods that look just like our own. This sense of immediacy, this chilling familiarity, makes them feel plausible, even when the details stretch the very limits of belief. Consider the famous legend of the Hook. A young couple parks their car on a lover's lane, the radio murmuring softly. Suddenly, a news bulletin breaks through the music, warning of an escaped convict from a nearby asylum, a dangerous man with a hook for a hand. Spooked, they drive away. It's only when they arrive home, safe under the glow of a porch light, that they discover a bloody hook dangling from the car's door handle. The story morphs over time, the details changing with each telling, but the core message persists. Beware of the unknown, and never, ever let your guard down.
This legend, like so many others, taps into timeless anxieties about safety, trust, and the dangers lurking just beyond the familiar glow of the streetlights. Urban legends often prey on our most contemporary fears. In the 1980s, tales of razor blades hidden in Halloween candy sent waves of panic across the United States. This fear led to increased parental supervision, community-sponsored safe trick-or-treating events, and even hospitals offering to X-ray children's candy collections. Despite little to no evidence to support these widespread claims, the legend's power lay in its vivid, relatable scenario, a child's most innocent ritual turned deadly. In the same way, stories of alligators thriving in New York City sewers or the mysterious killer in the back seat reflect our anxieties about the hidden risks of urban life, from the crumbling infrastructure beneath our feet to the chilling unpredictability of strangers. What's truly fascinating is how these legends adapt. With the rise of the internet, they have found new life, evolving into what we now call creepypasta. These are the digital age legends, birthing monsters like Slender Man, a faceless figure who haunts not dark forests, but chat rooms and online forums. The core elements remain the same: a gripping narrative, a touch of the uncanny, and a warning to heed. But the digital world has accelerated their spread, allowing these stories to mutate and reach a global audience almost instantly, a viral nightmare that infects the collective consciousness. But why do we keep telling them? Why do we seek out the very stories that make us afraid to turn off the lights? Urban legends serve as cautionary tales, as a thrilling form of entertainment, and as a strange way to build community. Sharing a chilling story can bond friends or strangers, giving form to shared anxieties and offering the cathartic thrill of confronting the unknown together.
In the flicker of a street lamp or the quiet hum of a city at night, these legends remind us that no matter how modern our world becomes, we are still drawn to the shadows and to the stories they hide. To truly understand the chilling power of one of the world's most terrifying urban legends, we must travel back through the shadowy corridors of Japanese history, to a time when ghosts and spirits were an accepted part of the landscape. Here, the story of the Slit-Mouthed woman, or Kuchisake-onna, first took root. Unlike many modern legends with a clear point of origin, her tale is a tapestry woven from ancient folklore, deep-seated fear, and the shifting anxieties of Japanese society. The earliest whispers of a figure like Kuchisake-onna can be traced to Japan's Edo period, which spanned from the early 17th to the mid-19th century. During this era, ghost stories, known as kaidan, were a wildly popular form of entertainment. Tales of vengeful female spirits, or onryo, captivated the public imagination. The story of a beautiful woman, wronged or betrayed in life, returning as a powerful ghost to seek her revenge, was a recurring and terrifying motif. But while these spirits were typically motivated by rage and sorrow, the story of Kuchisake-onna adds an extra layer of visceral horror, a permanent physical transformation that mirrors her emotional trauma. One of the most enduring origin stories tells of a breathtakingly beautiful woman living in feudal Japan, the wife of a proud and jealous samurai. Consumed by suspicion that she was unfaithful, the samurai, in a fit of uncontrollable rage, drew his sword. He didn't just strike her down.
He held her face and sliced her mouth open from ear to ear, screaming, "Who will think you're beautiful now?" This brutal act didn't just disfigure her, it unleashed a vengeful spirit, a tormented soul cursed to wander the earth, her mutilated face forever hidden behind a silk fan or, in later versions, a simple surgical mask. The imagery of a slit mouth is profoundly unsettling, but it is also deeply symbolic. In Japanese culture, the mouth is associated not just with communication, but with femininity and beauty. To have it so violently and permanently altered is to be robbed of one's agency, identity, and humanity. It's a potent metaphor for the devastating consequences of jealousy, gossip, and the impossible beauty standards placed upon women. Some folklorists suggest the legend functioned as a cautionary tale, warning against vanity or infidelity. Others see it as a dark allegory for the very real dangers facing women in a rigidly patriarchal society. For centuries, the legend lay dormant, a frightening story whispered among children, but largely confined to the realm of old folklore. Then, in the late 1970s, Kuchisake-onna was reborn as a modern urban terror. In the spring of 1979, rumors spread like wildfire across Japan, creating a genuine social panic, particularly among schoolchildren. Reports flooded in of a woman wearing a surgical mask, a common sight in Japan, approaching children on their way home from school. She would stop them and ask a simple, chilling question. "Watashi kirei? Am I pretty?" If they answered no, she would murder them with a pair of scissors or a scythe she carried. If they said yes, she would tear off her mask to reveal her grotesquely slashed mouth and ask again, "How about now?" No matter the answer, the children were doomed. To flee was to be caught and killed. To answer was to be mutilated in her own image.
This sudden, terrifying resurgence transformed an ancient ghost story into a living, breathing nightmare stalking the streets of modern Japan. What is it that makes a legend truly terrifying? In the case of the slit-mouthed woman, it's not just the violent backstory, but the haunting details woven into the encounter itself, details that cling to the mind long after the story ends. Let's dissect the anatomy of this specific terror. It begins with the disguise. The surgical mask is a stroke of genius, a perfect piece of modern camouflage. It allows her to blend in, to get unnervingly close without raising alarm. It transforms an object of public health and safety into a veil for unimaginable horror. The terror doesn't begin with the violence, but with the slow, dawning realization that something is terribly wrong with the ordinary-looking woman standing before you. Then comes the confrontation, a masterclass in psychological horror. Her question, "Am I pretty?" is not a simple query. It's a trap. It forces her victim into an interaction, creating a moment of forced intimacy that is deeply unsettling. It preys on our social conditioning to be polite, to give a pleasing answer, especially to a stranger. This simple question paralyzes the victim, turning a quiet street corner into a stage for a deadly game. The reveal is the legend's centerpiece of visceral horror. When she removes the mask, she violates a fundamental human expectation. Our brains are wired to recognize and find comfort in human faces. Kuchisake-onna's face is a perversion of that. It's not a monstrous, inhuman face. It's a human face that has been made monstrous through violence. This triggers what psychologists call the uncanny valley effect, the profound sense of revulsion we feel when something looks almost, but not quite, human. Her grotesque smile is a direct assault on our sense of normalcy and safety. But perhaps the most terrifying element is the impossible choice.
The legend creates a perfect double bind, a no-win scenario that amplifies the feeling of absolute helplessness. Answer no, and you die. Answer yes, and you are mutilated or die. This isn't a monster you can outrun or outsmart in a conventional way. She has created a set of rules where every path leads to destruction. This psychological trap is what elevates the legend from a simple jump scare to a source of lingering dread. The fear comes not just from what she looks like, but from the utter powerlessness you feel in her presence. Over the years, children invented ways to survive, answering, "You look average," or distracting her by throwing hard candies, which she would supposedly stop to count. These solutions only make the legend more terrifying because they imply that survival is possible, but only if you know the secret, arcane rules to her game. Imagine waking up to headlines that warn of a hidden danger lurking in your neighborhood, or hearing rumors whispered in school hallways that transform classmates into objects of suspicion. The panic that gripped Japan in 1979 was not an isolated event. Throughout history, these moments of sudden, widespread fear have swept through communities, leaving behind a trail of confusion, mistrust, and lasting change. These real-world panics show us how easily the line between legend and reality can blur. One of the most potent examples from American history is the so-called Red Scare of the 1950s. Fueled by the political tensions of the Cold War, a pervasive fear of communist infiltration took hold of the nation. A phantom menace was seen everywhere. Ordinary citizens began to view their neighbors, colleagues, and even their friends with deep suspicion. Senator Joseph McCarthy led high-profile investigations that destroyed reputations and careers based on little more than rumor and innuendo. Teachers, artists, and government officials were blacklisted, their lives ruined by the poison of paranoia. The panic seeped into every corner of society, a chilling reminder of how fear can turn a population against itself. Decades earlier, in 1938, another kind of panic seized the nation, this time sparked by the power of media. A radio broadcast of H.G. Wells' The War of the Worlds, directed by Orson Welles, was performed as a series of simulated news bulletins. It was so convincing that thousands of listeners across the country believed a real Martian invasion was underway. People fled their homes in terror, phone lines were jammed with frantic calls, and some even armed themselves, ready to fight off alien invaders. The broadcast revealed just how susceptible the public could be to a dramatic narrative, especially when delivered by a trusted voice. More recently, our interconnected world has created new vectors for panic. In the wake of tragic school shootings, waves of fear and copycat threats often ripple through communities. Social media acts as an accelerant, spreading rumors and unverified information faster than officials can respond. Even hoaxes can trigger real-world consequences. Schools go into lockdown, police forces are mobilized, and an entire community is left on edge. The psychological toll, heightened anxiety, a loss of security, and long-term trauma can linger long after the immediate threat has passed. Fear in the streets doesn't just affect individuals, it can reshape society. After the 9/11 attacks, a profound fear of terrorism led to a paradigm shift in public life. It brought increased surveillance, new security protocols at airports and public buildings, and a surge in prejudice against those perceived as other. These real-world panics demonstrate a fundamental truth. Whether sparked by political ideology, a convincing story, or a real act of violence, widespread fear is a powerful force. It alters how we see the world,
how we treat each other, and the price we are willing to pay for a feeling of safety. Why does the story of the slit-mouthed woman continue to haunt us, returning to unsettle our thoughts long after we first hear it? To understand its chilling longevity, we must delve into the psychology of dread, that ancient, instinctual response that legends like this tap into with surgical precision. At its core, the legend of Kuchisake-onna exploits our most fundamental fears. The fear of the predator in plain sight is paramount. She is not a monster lurking in a cave, but a seemingly normal person on a city street. This dissolves the comforting boundary between the safe, civilized world and the chaotic, dangerous one. She teaches us that horror can wear a disguise, that it can approach us and speak to us before revealing its true nature. Furthermore, the legend preys on deep-seated anxieties about appearance and judgment. Her question, "Am I pretty?" is a loaded one in any context, but in this scenario, it becomes a life-or-death interrogation. It reflects a societal pressure, particularly on women, to be judged by their appearance. Her disfigurement is the result of such judgment, and her revenge is to turn that same judgment back on the world with lethal consequences. She becomes a terrifying embodiment of the pain caused by a culture obsessed with beauty, making her story resonate on a subconscious social level. The legend is also a perfect example of what psychologists call social contagion. During the 1970s panic in Japan, the story didn't just spread, it multiplied. The more people talked about sightings, the more real she seemed, creating a feedback loop of escalating fear. One child's nightmare becomes the entire schoolyard's terror. This phenomenon shows that fear itself can be infectious, spreading through a population just like a virus, with the story acting as the carrier. The slit-mouthed woman became more than a story. She became a shared psychological experience, a collective delusion brought to life by fear itself. Finally, her power lies in ambiguity. Legends like Kuchisake-onna endure because they resist easy explanation. Is she a vengeful ghost, a cursed human, or a physical manifestation of societal anxieties? The lack of a clear, rational answer keeps our minds engaged, forcing us to fill in the blanks with our own deepest fears. We are not just passive listeners, we become active participants in our own terror. The slit-mouthed woman haunts us not just with her gruesome image, but with the terrifying questions she leaves in her wake. Questions about danger, trust, and the thin, fragile line that separates the ordinary from the abyss. And that is the true, unshakable psychology of dread. As night falls and new stories are whispered around digital campfires, the legend of the slit-mouthed woman does not simply fade into the past. It echoes through the darkness, reshaping itself for modern times, haunting new generations in unexpected and terrifying ways. The enduring legacy of this legend lies in its remarkable adaptability and the profound imprint it has left on global culture. Her evolution from a regional ghost story to an international icon of horror is a testament to her power. In Japan, she became a foundational figure in the modern horror genre, known as J-horror. She has been the subject of numerous films, manga series, and anime, each adaptation reinterpreting her story for a new audience. The 2007 film, Carved, the Slit-Mouthed Woman, brought her to the screen with brutal intensity, cementing her status as a cinematic monster alongside other Japanese spirits like Sadako from The Ring and Kayako from The Grudge. Then came the internet, which took her story and broadcast it to the world.
She became a staple of creepypasta forums and online storytelling communities, breaking free from her Japanese origins. For a global audience unfamiliar with the cultural context of the Edo period or 1970s Japan, she became something else, a pure, elemental boogeyman. Her story was so simple, so psychologically potent, that it needed no translation. The surgical mask, the question, the scissors. These elements created a universal language of fear. This global spread has also led to new interpretations. Modern creators and audiences often see her through a different lens. Is she merely a monster, or is she a tragic figure, a victim of horrific patriarchal violence, now exacting a terrible form of justice? Is her story a cautionary tale about the dangers of judging women by their appearance? This evolution from a simple vengeful spirit to a complex symbol of trauma and rage shows how legends stay relevant. They don't just scare us, they force us to confront uncomfortable truths about our own world. In the end, the echoes of the slit-mouthed woman persist because the fears she represents are timeless. The fear of sudden, random violence, the anxiety of being judged, the terror of a trusted, familiar world turning hostile in an instant. She is more than just a ghost in a story. She is the embodiment of a question that lurks in the back of all our minds as we walk down a dark street at night. What horrors lie hidden behind the masks that people wear? And as long as that question remains, her footsteps will continue to echo in the dark.